A Lebanese doctor has been denied citizenship in Germany. That's after refusing to shake hands with a female official at his naturalisation ceremony due to his religious beliefs. Judges said that the incident went against the constitution's guarantee of equality between men and women. Well, the man in question moved to Germany in 2002 as a language student, completed his medical studies and now works as a senior physician. When he married a Syrian woman, he vowed to never physically touch any other female. He applied for German citizenship and achieved maximum scores in a test on German history and values. During his naturalisation ceremony, though, back in 2015, he refused to shake a female official's hand when she gave him his certificate. 5 years later, a court has now backed the decision to deny his citizenship, saying the man's fundamentalist views were at odds with his integration into German society. So let's talk about all of this a bit further now with two guests. Mo Ansar, a political and social commentator, and also Dr. Rainer Rothfuss, a geopolitical analyst and consultant. You're both very welcome. Thanks for coming on. Dr. Rainer, if I could start with you first. I mean, I have to say, it does seem very harsh. A man who passed the naturalisation exam, renounced extremism, lived in Germany for years, gets told he can't have citizenship purely over a handshake.
Well, I think the procedure just showed that there was a problem with the integration process of this person, and you cannot look into people's hearts and minds. But that was a clear signal that he still adhered to a totally different belief and value system than the one which is established in Germany since centuries. And therefore, I find it correct that they took this signal serious and it rejected the naturalization of this Lebanese person. And to me, it also shows that a person even coming here for education purposes and has reached a high level of education still remains a citizen of his value and belief system, which he brings with himself. And that is the true citizenship, the citizenship of your religion, of your belief system.
Mo, just respond to that. So it seems that it's fair enough not to give this gentleman citizenship because his values don't just fit in with German ones.
Yeah, for any sci-fi fans out there, we love the idea of the Borg, don't we? The Borg are these kind of intergalactic super beings that try to assimilate people. I hope we have a slightly more enlightened view than Nazism, apartheid, racism, the far right. I hope we have a more enlightened view nowadays in Western Europe, albeit it is a multiracial, multi-religious, multifaceted society today, which is each to their own. Like it says in Islamic scriptures, like al-afidin, there's no compulsion in the way of life. Now, he is a fully functioning, as I understand, doctor. He does his job brilliantly. He's integrated into society. He accepts normative Western values. And he's doing his job brilliantly. There's no question about his professionalism. I would be okay shaking a hand, but if somebody who was Jewish or Christian or, I don't know, had COVID virus or some other communicable disease that would wipe people out, I would say cover your face. Whether or not you're a Muslim and it's a headscarf, I would say probably don't shake hands whether or not you're Orthodox Jewish or not. So the question here is intolerance. And you have to remember the cultural and political backdrop in Germany. Alternative for Deutschland, the far right have been making huge gains in regional, local and district elections for a few years now. Wobbly Angela is struggling as Chancellor of the coalition. And I think at some point they are trying to pander to the far right. And this is what it is. We are being asked important civilizational questions about what does Europe look like and how do we lead the way. If we want to be exceptional in the world, then let's be exceptional. But this idea that you don't assimilate and we won't tolerate integration is totally fallacious.
Right. Just let Rainer just respond then to what Mo said.
Yeah, I would say this is a lack of intolerance, and for that reason he was rejected and denied German citizenship, because tolerance means that if you move to a different country with a different cultural setting, you adjust to this cultural setting. It's also normal if citizens from Germany move to the Middle East, for example, to work there, that they don't offend the people there with their behavior. And this was clearly violated. The simple law by that doctor. And of course, he's working
This is
properly.
absurd. This is just an absolute absurd cultural and philosophical fascism. Rainer, this is a cultural and philosophical fascism. We have freedom of belief and conscience in Europe, right? There are limits to that. I agree, and I've helped governments in this country and elsewhere tackle radicalization, extremism, terrorism. I've been doing this for decades. But just trust me on this stuff, brother. If somebody doesn't shake a hand and he is carrying out his functions as a doctor, treating patients on a regular basis, it's not the end of the world. He's a contributing tax-paying member of society, and we should have tolerance. The tolerance that you espouse is a very skewed idea, because we are talking about Voltaire, John Locke, Edward Pocock, the real high virtues, and I think you need to read a bit deeper, my friend.
Excuse me, if you're talking about religious freedom, we should see that many Christians in the Middle East, in other Muslim countries, are severely persecuted because of a lack of...
There are no such things as Muslim countries. There are only Muslim majority countries. You have to use the right terms.
There is a limit to religious freedom. If you look, for example, at a Pew Research survey from 2013, we find that out of 1.6 billion Muslims, 584 million believe that for leaving Islam, for changing religion, you should be killed. And this is nothing.
Rainer, let me just make one point to you.
Sorry, Rainer, you have to stop there.
Please, Rainer, let me speak. Mo, let me speak. Rainer, please let me speak. I'd like to ask you a question, Rainer. Isn't it your individual right to decide whose hand you shake?
If this is a sign that, in general, he regards women as seductive, as a danger for his own behavior, then this shows that he has brought with himself a really outdated view of women, and this will create further clashes in the future when he has to deal with women working as a doctor. So this will not really work out well, and citizenship should not be granted to such people who do not believe in the basic values of a society.
Mo.
This is unbelievable. If you want to talk about the sexualization of women, I've been campaigning on these issues for years, all right? So in the UK, there are the rapes and sexual abuses of 200 women every single day and of 50 kids every single day. In America, it's one rape or sexual abuse every 1.6 seconds or something like this. Now, if you want to talk about mirroring cultural values, I'd rather have people here who are respecting women, not seeing them as sexualized and pornified objectification objects. Your idea also, and I think this is disgusting because we have a responsibility, Rainer, to stand up against people like you who come on international broadcasters and espouse Islamophobia. The idea of apostasy in Islam has been absolutely discredited. I've given talks, tweets, interviews in newspapers, lectures in this country and around the world talking about the fact that these apostasy rules, you don't know what you're talking about. How dare you come onto international news and tell Muslims...
All right, well, give Rainer a chance to respond, Mo.
No. I
know any cases of honor killing which also have happened here in Europe. And you will really agree
Mo,
with
let
me
Rainer
that
speak, please.
Such value systems cannot be integrated in our society. We need acceptance of the cultural values which are the basis, the foundation of European society, and which should also be protected in the future. Otherwise, we will have heterogeneous societies where cultures and their differences will appear all over in the world. So keep your value systems in your countries, and it will be fine.
Gentlemen, I'd like to ask another question, please, because we're having difficulty hearing both of you talking over each other. But Rainer, why can't we just have perhaps a more universal greeting that will offend nobody? Because surely some people would argue, look, I could imagine myself, if I didn't want to shake a woman's hand, I could say, look, please don't be offended by this. It's nothing to do with you. It's just my religious beliefs, but I'm very happy to do the elbow bump, the fist, but whatever, not to offend somebody. Why can't that be adopted?
Why should we, and where should it end? I mean, we can then go to the next step and say, why shall we talk about Christmas if Muslims, for example, do not believe in Christ? So this is a part of our culture, and it doesn't need to be changed in no way. So who cannot accept this culture should simply not work here or long for the citizenship of such a country. It's a free country, but you can respect, you must accept the basic values of those people, and they should not adapt to the minority which migrates to a majority society. I would never expect from any Saudi citizen to let me go into Mecca and preach Christianity there. I would accept it. It's their law and rule.
But we're talking about a handshake, Rainer.
Yeah, of course, but handshake is a part of the culture. And as I said, also Christmas, for example, is part of our culture. And so these things need to be preserved. It gives the feeling of home to the people. And if you change all that, you take away home from the majority because a minority doesn't want to accept it.
Mo, is there a sense, looking at Rainer's perspective here, is there a sense that people are afraid of their own cultures being diluted, being diminished where they live? Is this what this is about?
Yeah, I mean, look at me. I'm a great example of this weird mishmash of culture. I'm a bit Muslim-y. I've a beard, not necessarily robes anymore, but a hat. Lead singer in a rock and roll band, got a guitar here because Muslims were the first people to put 6 strings on a guitar. Were the first troubadours and travelled around Europe conveying messages of peace, hope, change. When we first came to Europe, we brought with us the scientific method. We discounted the Aristotelian method. We brought critical thought. All our modern basis of our science, our learning, our critical thinking, of even evolutionary multiverse theories. I mean, global tolerance and secular values. These came from Muslims. So when Rainer talks about this understanding he has of this very ugly dystopian Islam, I don't know what on earth he's talking about. You don't get to tell Muslims what this messed up version of Islam is that you think we have, and then put policies in place to protect it. That is not what is going on. It's about time you learned the truth. What is Islam? Who are Muslims? What are their virtues and values? When Donald Trump says he wants to put a Muslim ban in, and you say, well, the founding fathers relied on Lockean principles, which are taught from Edward Pocock, just up the road in Oxford, and their 400 books in Arabic, because Edward Pocock, an Anglican minister, thought we should have Islamic studies taught in every school in Christendom. You're not a theologian. Right? You're not a historian, evidently.
All right,
and
okay.
Copying...
We're running out of time a bit, Mo, so let Rainer respond.
My best friend, for example, is Turkish. I know very well there are very different aspects of Islam, but we are talking about the critical aspects, and they are there, and they should be looked at, and they exist more in the Middle East and in some African countries, of course, than here in Germany, where the majority is well integrated. But we should have really some protection walls against the infiltration of radical thinking, and radical thinking exists in Islam. Otherwise, you cannot tell me why 2/3 of the respondents of the Pew Research survey said that they think Sharia should
but Rainer,
rule.
Just on this point, please. There's no indication that this guy was a radical.
Here, we want to have civil law where women and men are equal.
Rainer,
Mo, we've got a minute left. Just wrap up your thoughts, please, and I'll come back to Rainer. Mo, 30 seconds.
Look, I've been working on extremism for a long time, okay, whether it's Muslim extremists, the far right, the far left, whatever it is, or on issues of gender diversity, and on race and age and disability. Now, the only extreme thinking is one which says some people are higher, Herren Volk, and some are Untermensch, the lower thans. And every time I hear a German person coming on telly talking about intolerance and saying, you guys are the enemy, you're sneaking in bad values, I'm like, have you looked in the mirror lately? Have you seen the genocide and apartheid the West has been sponsoring around the world for some time? Of course, we are not saying we abide by terrorism. Of course, we are not saying we abide by any human rights violations, but apply your own principles, German principles, diverse principles, democratic principles, freedom.
And that's why we have rejected citizenship for that citizen who wanted to, to dismiss those values.
Mo, please let Rainer speak for the last 30 seconds. Rainer.
Yeah, I think that it is in the interest of some people to heterogenize societies, to bring in to our societies in Europe people who adhere to different value systems which clash with our value systems. And by doing so, they seem to be wanting to dissolve societies as we had them now. Nation states depend upon societies who adhere to the same value and belief systems. It does not necessarily mean that everybody is Christian, of course, but you need to adhere to some basic shared value systems. Otherwise, a society will fall apart, and in the end, also nation states will fall apart. And maybe this is in the interest of many people, but in my interest is it, and in that normal citizens in Germany and in Europe, to conserve societies in their complexity that we already have, in their colorfulness, and keep them as open and really tolerant spaces without radical views.
Mo, just wrap it up. 10 seconds, please.
He sounds like a German Dalek. This model of integration he has, I just don't agree with, okay? The foundation of Europe, all right, after that period of Hellenism, the Greek and Roman Empire, the handing over of civilizational values of, before Muslims came at the end of the 6th century, Jews were on the brink of extermination. Professor Wasserstein from Vanderbilt University talks about this. You need to understand that when, I'm not being funny, white Christian people historically were left to their own devices. They didn't want to integrate. There was white flight, and they've been committing genocide around the world for decades and centuries ever since. The model of shared values and tolerance is where I'm chilling with you, Rainer, and you're okay if I shake hands or not, and I'm not that bothered whether you do either. There are bigger things for us to worry about, brother, and let's focus on those big things.
OK, gentlemen, look, we really appreciate your time tonight. There was Mo Ansar, political and social commentator, and also Dr. Rainer Rothfuss, a geopolitical analyst and consultant. Thank you.